You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds! Nerds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got some family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse, Winchester.
Welcome to another edition of the Itmodcast podcast. Joining me is Lisa Gullickson, wife dork.
I'm lost. Am I in the bath with Barry White's finger in my missus?
And also joining us is Brad Gullickson, mouth dork.
I'm warning you, Ross does karate.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the disco dork. He's 1,000 years old, and now he's just an ornament in my living room. Ooh, I love it. And welcome to another edition of the Itmodcast podcast.
Yay!
Yay! Welcome back, dorks, from Sundance.
Yeah!
It's good to have you back.
Good to be back.
Unfortunately, we're down one dork.
Yeah.
As the turtle dork decided not to join us.
He's so jealous of our
He's just
Sundance
being spiteful.
stories.
Yeah, truth be told, he does miss you because when you weren't here and it was just he and I doing the D&B show, all he could talk about was he couldn't wait for you guys to get back.
I listened to those 2 episodes, Darren. I gotta say, you two were having a good old time.
Were we?
You were having a ball without us, and I was jealous.
What?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Those were great episodes. I had a blast listening to them.
Thank you. I told him that I could not wait for you two to return because I was just excited to see or hear all the cool stories.
I believe that.
Yeah, just watching movies. That's the life.
That's the life. We
watching
did
movies.
it. We
Yeah.
did it.
So how was it?
I mean, it was amazing. I know Lisa and I, we want to do a separate episode where we run down our fistful of Sundance and talk about each of the films that we really, really fell in love with while we were out there. This is year 2 for us. And I think in a lot of ways, nothing will beat year 1, that surreal nature of just being in Utah, being in Park City, being at the Egyptian Theater, watching celebrities go from screen to screen. Nothing's going to top that first time. Kind of like when we went to Comic-Con back in 2011. Yeah, 2011. I was looking at the other day at the photo of you 2011 where you have that big ass camera around your neck.
Oh yeah.
And you're staring off into the distance, looking at the convention center and just the sense of bliss that's on your face. And when I saw that photo the other day, scrolling through my own Instagram, because that's the narcissistic human being that I am, came across that photo and I went, yeah, that's how it was for Sundance 2019.
Yeah.
So a little different this year was we didn't watch as many movies. I think Lisa and I, we did I did 42 last year.
No, you did nowhere near 42, my sweetheart.
I think I did last year.
Oh, last year you did.
Yeah. I know I didn't do nearly that many this year. This year I did 31, and I think Lisa beat me
with 32.
With 32 films. But we were much busier this year. The first weekend at Sundance, we were running all over Park City, going and doing interviews. We did a total of 6 interviews for the podcast, and they will be showing up in the Itmod Chatcast podcast channel. Yeah. You got to look it up by all those letters.
Yeah.
Don't just type in Itmodcast.
No.
I don't know why I titled it that way. I'm sorry. But if you go to that channel, the Itmod Chatcast podcast channel, if you look all those letters up, you will be able to see several really great interviews that we did while we were out there. And the interviews were nuts this year because...
Like good nuts or bad nuts?
I mean, no, great nuts.
Oh, okay.
Grape nuts.
Grape nuts and
They're
great
good for
nuts.
You.
I did eat a little grape nuts while I was out there.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just go to this one location, talk to these people. We had to bus and lift all over Park City, go up and down the mountains. When we talked to Nat Faxon and Jim Rash, the directors of The Way Back and the new Downhill remake, they were at the St. Regis Hotel, and that's at the very tippy top of the mountain. And to get there, you have to take a funicular. So you have to go park your ass up on the mountain and then take a funicular up there. And when we got up there, you go, oh, I don't belong. It's where the real
fancy schmancy people
This is where the rich
parade around in their ski boots.
Yeah. And so we parked ourselves by the buffet and we watched the rich eat their buffet.
They didn't know how to do it. They're like, there was like this one moment where there's this woman at the cutting station.
It's true.
And this blonde lady goes up to her with her dirty plate, and she goes like, "What am I supposed to put this somewhere?" Or am
this
I
is the
supposed
cutting lady. She's just
and
dealing
she
with
goes
roast
like,
beef.
she goes like, "Well, I'll take them." So this lady hands 2 plates to the lady at the roast beef station, and she just takes the plates, and she looks so utterly confused, like, what am I supposed to do with these? And so she ended up just stashing them underneath her
table.
Her table. But it was like one of those situations where it's just like, if I were that roast beef person, I would probably get fired, because I'd be like, it's a buffet. You're supposed to not use more than 1 plate, because that is gauche. And if you do go for seconds, you have to leave the dirty plate on your table as a sign of shame that you are a glutton.
Jeez. So while we're watching the buffet go down, the entire cast of Downhill is just going back and forth. So we saw Will Ferrell multiple times,
Walk
Julia
around.
Louis-Dreyfus multiple times, Zach Woods, Tormund from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
We saw him a bunch at Sundance this year.
He was having a grand old
He was
time.
having a good old time.
He seems like the guy to party with.
I did look up how much it costs to stay at the St. Regis for one night. You want to guess?
$2,000.
$1,000 a night.
That's crazy.
That's
still
crazy. Yeah.
I ain't got it.
Yeah, no. And then you just look at all these people, like, all these people are paying $1,000 a night. Must be
And they don't
nice.
know how a buffet works.
Well, you know, when you have $1,000 a night to spend, you don't need to know how the buffet works.
Yeah.
You just hand your plates to the nearest,
Yeah. The
Piss
roast
ant.
beef lady. So, we did that interview in the ballroom, and then from that interview, we had to go to the Marriott Mountainside, which is on the other side of Park City on another mountain. And, like, we only had 10 minutes, and that was with Bo Burnham. And like, oh my gosh, so we have to get a lift, but the lift at that time of year is only those SUVs. And so to go 10 minutes, that lift ride cost $50.
Jesus.
So, but we made our Bo Burnham interview on time. That's
Did
just
you get per diem?
the studio did pick up our dinner
yeah.
at that restaurant.
And it was the best mushroom soup I've ever had.
And it was a $24 soup.
Okay.
And it was a $25 salad that I had.
Okay.
So it kind of
Evens out.
evened out.
Okay.
Yeah, but nope. Film school rejects, and actually we were there under In the Mouth of Darkness. We don't have the budget for per diems there. And
We gotta start making a budget then.
So we did that, and it was just a great time. I feel like the quality of movies that we saw this year was certainly better than the quality of movies that we saw last year.
Really?
I came away with a few films where I thought, okay, in the 2021 Oscar season, we're going to be talking about these movies. We're going to be talking about Anthony Hopkins and The Father. We're going to be talking about Stephen Yeun and the movie Minari in general. And then I saw a bunch of films where I'm like, oh, that's definitely coming to Fantastic Fest. I can't wait to see the Fantastic Fest crowd with that. We're talking about Brandon Cronenberg's Possessor, The Night House with Rebecca Hall. Those are like really good Fantastic Fest movies. So I think it was a victory. We did a lot more socializing this year. I think Lisa would agree with that.
Yeah, made some nice connections, made some buds,
Yeah,
new friends.
We passed out a lot of cards to fellow press people and non-press people. We even watched one guy, John, subscribe to In the Mouth of Darkness in front of us. So welcome, John.
Oh, hi, John.
So it was a great time. It was a great time. But I really want to keep the Sundance talk to another episode because I think we can go into a lot of detail about these films that you really need to put on your radar.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if you're going to not talk about Sundance, you want to talk about your week in Dork then?
Yeah, a lot of it was missing my movie Vacation. I spent a lot of it just staring at the wall and going I wish I was looking at another wall, or I wish somebody would project things onto this wall that I'm staring at, but there's nothing projected on it. But Lisa and I went and saw The Gentleman. I listened to your review cast of that, and I think I enjoyed it as much as you guys did. But I'm going to let Lisa talk about it because she's a big Guy Ritchie maniac.
I am a fan.
Went and saw Birds of Prey. We watched Pain and Glory, which is the film that Antonio Banderas is up for an Academy Award. We're recording this on Oscar night. I'm so excited to go to the Sears and partake in their party. And I'm glad that I caught up on Pain and Glory and I caught up on Harriet. I liked both films. I liked Pain and Glory quite a bit. I wasn't in love with it. Pedro Almodovar is a hell of a filmmaker. And I think the ending of Pain and Glory, it's one of those endings where it makes you reevaluate what you just witnessed in a really cool way. And it's a film that's about film and the power of film and the impact that stories can have on lives and how our lives feed stories. So it's definitely right up my alley. And Banderas, he knocks it out of the park. Would I nominate him when I'm not? Sure, okay. Harriet was solid. It felt a little bit like a biopic from the early 90s. It's pretty basic in its storytelling, but Cynthia Erivo is phenomenal. It really just makes me want to watch more Cynthia Erivo films. It makes me want to go back and watch Widows. It makes me want to go back and watch Bad Times at El Royale.
She was in Widows. That's right.
Hell yeah. That run.
Yeah.
The Cynthia Erivo run from Widows. It's a hell of a run.
Epic
run.
Yeah.
I read a ton of comics going back and forth from Park City because we had this hellish snowstorm getting out of Salt Lake City. In fact, it cut off our festival by 2 films.
No.
We were going to see the Benedict Cumberbatch movie Ironbark, and we were going to follow that up with Palm Springs, the Lonely Island film.
Yeah.
which everybody was talking about the entire festival.
Everyone was saying how great it was.
Impossible to get into.
Impossible to get into. But of course, on the last day, plenty of seats. But then the snowstorm's like,
no.
You want to get stuck here forever? So Lisa and I, we made the smart decision to leave Park City. And we actually packed all our bags a day early and we drove our ass down the mountain to Salt Lake City to stay there because they were saying, like, you're going to get 8 feet of snow. I'm like, okay, well, I can't drive this Nissan Altima in 8 feet of snow, so we should get the hell out of Dodge. And we did, and I'm glad we did that because we were able to get up. There's a foot of snow on the ground, but we only had to drive
7 minutes.
7 minutes from the hotel in Salt Lake to the airport, and I survived it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we flew to Denver, and Denver was also suffering with the snow. And so we were in Denver for like 5 or 6 hours. And in that time, I had a bunch of comic books with me, and I read a bunch of comics. And I just want to shout out one, which is Dial H for Hero. Have you ever heard of this comic book? It's a really cool concept. This is the new one that's currently being published by DC. Writer Sam Humphries and artist Joe Quanos. I can't pronounce your last name. I apologize. The story is there's a mystical telephone that appears in front of you sometimes. And when randomly, or you're chosen, right? It's kind of like Shazam, but instead of a word, it's a phone. And you pick up the phone and you talk to the operator, who's this mystical wizard-like character. And you dial H for hero. And it will gift you a persona from the Heroverse. And in the first issue, the main character, Miguel, becomes Monster Truck. And when he becomes Monster Truck, the art is still all done by Joe Quanos, but he changes his style to match Image Comics of the 90s. And suddenly there's not Monster Squad, there's Monster Truck, who looks like this beefed out, the character Prophet from the 90s, the Rob Liefeld character? Yeah. He looks like Prophet mixed with Optimus Prime.
Oh, shit.
And he just kicks a whole bunch of ass. And so there's an action scene where he's fighting like Monster Truck. And then another guy gets a hold of the phone and he accesses it. And he becomes like this donkey version of Dragon Ball Z. And the entire comic changes into a manga format. And it's just really, really cool. So every time a character uses the phone and they're gifted a hero, it's a reference or a parody of a style of comic book. One character gets the phone and she becomes Lolo Kikyo, and she is a take on Mike Allred's Dead Girl from Ecstatics. And then suddenly the art has a very Allred-like quality. And so every issue is like a tour through comic book history.
Is it one person per issue, like one character, like Monster Truck
Well, it's all Miguel's the main character, but through the first story arc, people are trying to steal the phone. And what you learn is that once you've dialed H for hero, you can tell when someone else has the phone. And you know where they are. You sense where they are. And so all these people who no longer have access to the phone are trying to get a hold of the phone. And they're called the Thunderbolt Club. And they're trying to lock it down for themselves. And Miguel's trying to do the right thing with the phone, doing what the operator asks of him. But he's obsessed with Superman. And every time he dials H for hero, he gets a character that's a little weird. There's like a Captain Caveman character that he becomes. He's like, why am I Captain Caveman? I want a really cool power. And then he's like a Captain Underpants-like character. He's like, I'm in my underpants. This is not cool. I want to be like Superman. And in the final issue, they're in Metropolis, and he dials H for hero, and he becomes Super Miguel. And he's like beefed out like Superman. He's drawn like the modern Superman. He has a Superman-like symbol on his chest, but it's an M.
Yeah.
And when he finally gets like to be Super Miguel and like rescue a falling plane out of the sky, and you're like, yeah, Miguel got it. He got the hero he always wanted.
Yeah.
And you're rooting for this kid the entire time.
Yeah.
So that's the first 6 issues. That's collected in a trade paperback. Highly recommend it. It's part of this imprint of DC Comics that Brian Michael Bendis is sort of orchestrating, called Wonder Comics. The Wonder Twins is part of it. Young Justice is part of it. Naomi is part of it. And then Dial H for Hero. And I definitely think Dial H is the big standout. And people have used Dial H in the past, and I read one version which was very much a Vertigo, like down and dirty, gritty comic book that I enjoyed quite a bit as well. But this one's certainly the most fun. And because it's having a conversation with comics as an art form, it elevates the ideal a little bit more.
Yeah.
So highly recommend Dial H for Hero.
All right. Wife Dork,
Yes.
how was your weekend, Dork?
My weekend dork was wonderful. I managed to get a lot of dorky stuff in between coming back from Salt Lake City till now. In fact, the night that we were in Salt Lake City, we watched a documentary that premiered at Sundance, but before Sundance was even over, released on Netflix.
I still say that was part of Sundance. We were in Utah. I'm calling this movie part of our Sundance. It's in my ranking.
It's in the Sundance ranking, and it is Miss Americana.
Taylor Swift?
That's right. It's the Taylor Swift documentary. And I am not a Swiftie by any means. I spent a lot of years working with kids.
Yeah.
So especially like, when I'm teaching voice lessons, a lot of my students want to sing Taylor Swift songs or learn how to play those melodies on the piano. And there are certain songs that like super resonate with me. I love Shake It Off.
Yeah.
I think that's a great song. And so I went into watching Miss Americana with very low expectations. Not low expectations, but no anticipation. Like, I didn't feel particularly connected to the subject. But once I started watching it, they really took the approach of going like look how vulnerable and accessible Taylor Swift really is as a human being, which is like kind of an immature thing to say, like, whoa, celebrities are people too. Like, logically, we know that. But, like, seeing her, like, take in the information of it, the film actually started with her, like, waiting for a phone call because they're announcing who's getting the Grammys, like, who's being nominated for Grammys. And she got a call from her agent or whatever going like, you didn't get nominated
for anything.
And you watch her like kind of take this information in and be disappointed by it, but then also
blame herself.
She's like, I should just write a better album. Like, my next album is going to be even better. It's going to be okay. So it really came from that angle of going like, she is just a regular person who is like in this crazy situation. And her life now, as she is entering her 30s, is kind of the overarching narrative, but you do get a retrospective of her entire career, starting as a 16-year-old doing country music. And then
I forgot that she came up through Nashville.
right. And it was
didn't know
like
that.
weird when she crossed over.
Yeah. And like, she's singing like that Tim McGraw song. And I'm like, what? What is this? What's happening?
And then it went through like the Kanye West incident
yeah.
where you like there was so much conversation spiraling around this event, and having it in the documentary reminds you like not only did this happen and it was crazy and isn't, Kanye West larger than life and blah, 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 but like she was 17 when that happened to her. She had just won an award for the very first time, and then somebody swoops in
Kanye was right, though.
the part that really affects me is people are booing Kanye's behavior, but Taylor Swift just heard it as booing, and so they thought that they were booing her. So he goes up there. She's like, yeah, I can't, I'm a child, and like all of my dreams are coming true. And then somebody literally comes up to her face and goes like, I don't think you're good enough. Anybody who is knows anything about music, a professional like myself, they also don't believe that they're good enough. What do you think, crowd? Boo! See, that's that was a traumatic incident in her career. And then it also talked a lot about how she started opening up about her politics after Trump was elected, and it talked a lot about how coming up in country music in particular, you really have to keep your politics to yourself.
Especially if you're a lefty like she is.
Like every artist is. Like, I don't know. I think it's pretty hard to be a creative and be a crazy right wing. I mean, it happens. It happens.
And Kevin Sorbo.
But like they compared her to the Dixie Chicks, where when the Dixie Chicks, they said one offhanded comment talking about Bush, and
their career was over.
Yeah, the country crowd just did a scorched earth. Like, well, we're never going to listen to your music again, and you're now yesterday's news. And so, growing up in that environment, she was told to like tamp her opinions down.
The camera is in the room while she's telling her managers and
her dad,
father, that she's going to speak out against Trump, and you get to hear her dad and her managers go like, this is not a good idea.
Yeah, telling her like this is raising all kinds of red flags, you might never be able to. And she just came down to the opinion that a lot of people are, where it's just like, I don't want to be on the wrong side of history. I don't want to be the person who didn't say anything. And then we also got to see the scene of her, and it was this, they were having a multi-person meeting over a tweet. Right? And so then the next scene is her sitting with her mom and her publicist, and with big glasses of wine, sweating bullets over doing a tweet.
I think it was an Instagram post.
Something like that.
I think it was like an Instagram
But I mean, it was literally just like like the kind of thing where we go on social media and we're like, lunch is great. Here's a picture. And then she's like, this is going to break my career maybe. But then just the flow of creativity that came after that, and how buoyant she was after she unburdened herself of like going like, am I going to amount to anything, like in terms of like politically, I don't know, not politically, but am I going to have any gravitas, or am I going to be just like a flaky blonde who's been able to keep over a decade worth career, which is very impressive.
Yeah.
But so I also really enjoyed the scenes of watching her compose music. She clearly still gets super excited when she has a great idea. And I just liked the creative process of watching her work with her producer and how they kind of feed each other's excitement and creativity. I thought that was really wonderful and really inspiring. So I recommend that if you haven't already watched it on Netflix. It was really wonderful.
Okay.
That same night, we actually watched another documentary. I don't know when it's going to be released, but we watched a screener of it because we weren't able to catch it at Sundance. And it is The Reason I Jump. And it is a documentary that was inspired by a book by Naoki Higashida, who is a person with autism to the point where he is nonverbal, but he found a way to communicate, compose this book, and give all of these parents insight into the minds of their non-speaking autistic child. So I didn't realize, like myself, what assumptions I was operating under for people with nonverbal autism. When you see someone with nonverbal autism, they're often staring at their hands, staring at an object, maybe, slapping their heads or, doing behaviors that make you go like, they are illiterate or presuming that they are not complicated. And
you'll hear like those audible verbal tics, and you assume that their brain is thinking in what you're hearing.
Yeah,
right?
in that like a simplistic fashion. And what this film did, I brought up oh, sweetheart, will you look up who the director was?
I don't have anything.
Oh, you can use my computer. So the director of this film actually had a nonverbal autistic child, and he discovered this book, and he tried to capture the way that the author of the book saw the world in film. So like one of the things...
Jerry Rothwell is the director, but the person who I think had the autistic child was David Mitchell, the author, who translated the book.
That's right.
And appears in the film periodically.
That's right. So one of the things that was in the book was the idea that people with autism see the details first and see the big picture second. So for example, like we go outside and we go, oh man, what a gorgeous tree. Where someone with autism might go, look at the texture. What could that be? I think that is bark. Look at, now it's extending up. Feel how tall it is. And so it takes longer to put all of the puzzle pieces together to now I'm seeing a tree. And so there are just more hurdles to processing an entire something in a holistic way. And so the filmmaker tried to capture that by going like, you're looking at something and it just looks like holes. And then you zoom out and you go, oh, maybe this is some kind of fabric. Oh, you zoom out. Okay, this is an umbrella. So that idea of trying to capture, and also the idea of trying to capture the soundscape. Like you might hear, there was one beautiful child who was obsessed with green boxes. Like utility boxes that you see periodically. Mm-hmm. They emit a kind of like a buzzing noise. And this guy was really he loved that buzzing noise. And he could hear green boxes from like literally like yards and yards away. And he would go to just be with that sound. So they would try to capture like the prevalence of the sound of the green box to him. But one of the reasons people with autism have a tendency to focus on one thing is to drown out all of that extra noise. But the thing that I found most amazing was the way that one particular family were able to connect with a speech therapist, actually, who was able to find a way to have people with autism communicate words using a letterboard. So the person with autism would hold like a pencil, and then it would be like a letterboard that was like stencils. And he would poke like the pencil through the letter he was indicating and compose a sentence. But he wasn't composing like, like, hey, what do you want to do today? R-U-N, I want to run. It was like complete thoughts and sentences, the kinds of thoughts and sentences that are revelatory.
And like I'm watching this film and I'm hearing the narration that is from
the book, and you go like, well, he clearly shouldn't. I guess the guy who wrote the book didn't have autism as badly. Was the presumption we made aloud to each other,
right? And then you see this kid,
grown man, really, practically.
yeah, this 20-year-old used the stencil and compose extremely thoughtful and progressive thoughts about his condition. And you go, oh, damn, I have just confronted my biases of what I thought autism was. This guy is no different than me in his head.
Yeah, his internal world. It's just that there are so many hurdles between that internal world and expression. And there's also like the motor skills complication.
And so using this letterboard, he and I could have a totally normal conversation. And that really blew my mind.
Wow.
I mean, I have members of my own family who are non-speaking, have non-speaking, nonverbal autism. And I remember as a little kid, I found it scary because this is a girl who was older than me, bigger than me. But in my view as a child, I thought she was acting in a like tantrumy child way. And like she is an adult now, but like she's never had access to a letterboard. Like we've never heard her internal thoughts.
One of the folks that they follow is in Sierra Leone, and you get to see how the community there reacts to people with nonverbal autism. And you get to hear stories where moms are saying, you know, that her village elders are telling her to go toss the kid in the river because the kid is clearly possessed by a demon.
Right, and that she must be a witch to have such a child and things like that. So, like, the boundaries, it was that film, The Reason I Jump, and also the film The Father, where these are two movies that invite you into a completely different way of the brain operating, in a way that goes like, I'm not going to say, like, now I know what it's like to be a person with autism, or now I know what it's like to be, you know, a person with Alzheimer's. Like, I'm not going to say that, but I feel like it cracked the door enough that I can now have empathy, you know, where I don't, you know, I'm not looking at a person going like, that you must, I'm going to avoid putting words in people's mouths. I know better than to make any kind of presumption about what might be going on in somebody else's mind.
Yeah, and you get to hear from the mother of that man who has the autism and the letterboard, and she goes, you know, for his entire life, I've been putting words in his mouth. I've been thinking what he must be thinking, and this has been a tremendous revelation to know, like, that's all assumptions. And that really, he is a full being in a way that I did not understand, even as his mother.
But it also demystifies the volatility. Like a friend of mine works with autism kids in the public school. And there is this tendency to tantrum. And then as they get older, that tendency doesn't go away. But now you have a full-grown adult throwing a childlike tantrum, and it is scary. Like, it feels like a scary, violent thing where you go like, now I have to like, he can't be in society because of this danger. But I think that having this, but that volatility would be the same volatility that I would have if literally nothing I was trying to say was being understood. You know, like if I was insisting on something that was important to me and I could not express it, I would get tantrumy. Yeah. I would get rageful. Yeah. So I think that breaking down these barriers is so necessary, and like the value of film and storytelling to try as best you can, not just to put you in somebody else's shoes, but to put you in somebody else's brain.
Yeah.
And go like, what is it like to think through this particular sieve?
Yeah. And you know, The Reason I Jump uses cinema to express metaphorically what it must be like. It's not just a Talking Heads documentary. Yeah. So I appreciated it on another level as well because of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought that was really special.
I'm
On the
looking forward to
plane,
that.
I watched all of Next in Fashion. Tan France now has a Project Runway style show. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it very much. You can binge that. It's on Netflix shows. They're now doing this thing where like they do it on Nailed It too, where the host of the show goes like, you're just going to keep watching the show. Go ahead and hit next episode. And now I hate that because I'm like, stop condescending to me. We both know I'm going to watch all of these episodes. I've downloaded them onto my phone so that
Oh.
I have something to look at in the sky. Like, let's just pretend that I have some kind of self-control.
Oh.
Maybe I'll stop after this episode. You don't know, Tan France. But I found it very enjoyable. It is, they're trying to bring some of the warm fuzziness that, like, Great British Bake Off has to fashion. So there is much less supporting each other. There's much more supporting each other, much less drama, dragging each other. They do a lot of teamwork. The whole first half of the season is them working in pairs, but they're set in pairs where on Project One Way, when they were put in pairs, they're often either randomly assigned pairs or put in pairs that would specifically create drama. Where in this show, it really felt like they tried to find people with commonalities to put in pairs. So they ended up having like this kinship that carried on even after they were split into their individual groups. So it was a nice plane watch. So I recommend that to my fellow Netflix bingers of competitive creativity.
Oh, okay. What else? That's it?
That's it.
All right. For my weekend dork was pretty uneventful for the most part as far as like seeing new movies in the theater. I did some rewatches. I went and saw Promare again, the Alamo. Shout out to them. The Animazing series that they're doing. So they're showing anime theatrically periodically. So I got to check that movie out again. I saw... That's really all that I've seen that I haven't spoken about on our last Weekend Dork. Because I talked about Gretel and Hansel. Which I really enjoyed that.
You like it more than Blackcoat's Daughter?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like yeah. Like by a wide margin.
I got to go check it out.
Yeah, it's worth seeing. And did I talk about? I did talk about Like a Boss, right?
You did.
I enjoyed that.
I want to watch that too. Is that still in theaters?
I don't know. I've been, you know what? Since that article that I tagged you in about Underwater, I've been wanting to go back and rewatch that movie.
Yeah, I'd like to rewatch Underwater as well.
But I think what I wanted to discuss for my weekend dork, because I haven't been able to discuss it with Brian because he refuses to watch anything and everything, is I'm digging The Outsider so hard.
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Speaking
yeah.
of Cynthia Erivo,
That's
like,
we that's another thing we did this week is we caught up. We caught up.
how good is that freaking show, man?
It's good.
I kind of miss the monster a little bit in these last two episodes. The first two episodes we were really getting into.
Well, the first two episodes are two of the best hours of television ever. Like I love those first two episodes.
There's violence. They're frenetic. You're introduced to this mystery. Like, what a great device!
Yeah.
This idea of going like, well, forensic evidence is moot. Like, forensic evidence is now the most misleading thing ever. So what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
I think that's so interesting. But now, as these last two episodes where we have this one guy, he's been infected, but he's been doing these like strange behaviors, but nothing's really come of that yet. You're just watching a skin bubble. And then,
You mean the guy who's being controlled?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, Cynthia Erivo's character, she's doing her private investigation, and she's kind of putting some folklore elements together.
Go.
But I miss the excitement of the first two episodes in these last two. I want to start seeing going. Not that I necessarily want to see more kids die, but I definitely want to see more monster.
Well, I think what's happening is that we've now come on to what this thing is and what it's doing and how far its evil is infecting all these people, like where we last left off. I think now we've identified, or Cynthia Erivo has identified what the thing is.
Yeah.
Now it's time for them to get together, the investigators, and now it's time to take down the thing. So it's like we're halfway through now.
Yeah, we're at the halfway point now, and I got a feeling that some as far as like action, something is about to happen in terms of Ralph is that the cop?
Yeah. Ben Mendelsohn.
Ben Mendelsohn. I got a feeling that
What a great ending that last episode is.
Oh yeah. I got a feeling that thing is because he warned him through his wife, and I don't feel like he's going to heed that warning, and I feel like he's going to suffer because of that, and that the thing is all about causing suffering and witnessing that suffering, the person who suffers. So I have a bad feeling about that, but a confrontation is coming. I think
there's been a lot of foreboding put in place, and I just want to see some of that foreboding come to fruition.
I had the Still Watching Vanity Fair podcast. They're doing an entire podcast devoted around The Outsider. I've been listening to it, enjoying it a lot. Shout out to Richard Lawson and Joanna Robinson. I'm sure they're listeners. And they pointed something out that I had not thought about. And that is that Richard Price, who wrote the novel Clockers that Spike Lee made into a movie and is adapting King's novel into the screen. He also did the HBO miniseries The Night Of, and that's all about wrongful imprisonment and, the hell that the system can create. And that he is using Stephen King's The Outsider to metaphorically talk about the justice system and how all these people are wrongfully convicted. And as The Outsider goes further into its narrative, and we're meeting all these people who were thrown into jail based on this doctored evidence, and we're seeing a monstrous infestation of wrongful imprisonment being supplied on screen. Mm-hmm. And I had not thought about that before. And it makes me reevaluate the last two episodes in a big way.
And it's kind of been emphasizing how that sorrow then infects the entire family.
And ruins everything.
I love that.
And then I'm like, because I remember when Richard Price got on this, I was like, this is an odd project for Richard Price to be a part of. But then Still Watching talk about it that way, it's like, that's why he's making this movie.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And I just love that.
Huh. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited for the next chapter. Is it going to be only 10 episodes?
I think it's 10 episodes. Yeah, I think we're at the halfway point. Exactly.
So next episode is episode 6.
Yeah.
Man. I love Cynthia Erivo's character. I love the
acting in this series is so good.
Yeah. Ben Mendelsohn is great. Jason Bateman was
awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, man. Was not expecting that.
No. I knew nothing about this book. The show was so good that I ended up buying the book, and I read the first 60 pages before going to Sundance, but then I left the book here. And I was like, well, I'm never going to read this book now.
Jeez. Why?
Because I'm going to finish this series.
Stephen King is a lot of work.
Are you familiar with the book,
No.
Lisa? Oh,
no, I haven't read the book.
And I've done no how does this end? I'm not, no spoilers.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the mystery of it.
Me too.
It's really cool to have come off Watchmen into The Outsider.
Yeah.
Because I feel like these are two of the most compelling shows that I've watched in a long time.
Yeah.
And it's really positioned HBO back on top.
It has.
For me.
It has. So outside of that, I did go see Birds of Prey several times, actually. So when we come back from the break, we will discuss that film for our review cast. So if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor, go check it out. Because when we come back, we're going to talk spoilers.
Brad lightly teased that I was going to talk about The Gentleman, and I completely forgot.
So how did you like it?
I did like it.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. I thought I found I like the differentiation of characters. I always enjoy that in Guy Ritchie films. I like the return to form with the kind of gangster conspiracy type story. I am a little annoyed that when it came down to the wife getting attacked, that it was going to be a rape.
Yeah.
And that's something we're also going to talk about a little bit with Birds of Prey, where I'm seeing this kind of post-Me Too cinematic activism that that for me, like, I can see the intention behind it, the idea of, well, if this person truly is the scum of the earth, these are the kinds of actions that they do. And then it generally ends with the woman not getting raped, but somebody is silently crying. That's how these scenes are going now in these films. And there were a couple at Sundance that did this as well too. And for me, I think, like, I would appreciate, like, going, like, yes, the trauma of women is now in the conversation, and it, I feel seen, but at the same time, like, sexual violence is trauma. And is triggering, and to have these films that are, like, comedy adjacent, but wanting to go, like, the violence is real, the danger is real, the insensitivity of the villain is real. Therefore, he's going to sexually violate this woman. To me, it's a hot button for a reason. And I'm sure that it's not going to offend every single person. And I'm not saying that I'm offended. I'm just saying I don't necessarily want to see it.
Okay.
And I think that it's being done in a way that is quickly becoming cliche. Like, quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. I thought the script was so, like, clever. I thought that the dialogue was hilarious.
Yeah.
So I just thought that element was not fun.
In regards, compared to Revolver and Rock and Roll,
it's better than Revolver.
Because I'm not going to even mention Lock, Stock, or Snatch.
I love those movies.
Because to me those are, like, untouchable. Where do you put The Gentleman?
I don't think I like The Gentleman as much as Rock and Rolla. Okay. I don't even know if I've seen Revolver.
You haven't.
Oh, with Jason Statham?
Yeah.
Oh,
no.
okay. Wow.
I've been shielded from it, I guess.
I love Rock and Rolla.
Yeah, me too.
And if you catch me on the right day, I'll say that Rock and Rolla is the best Guy Ritchie movie.
All right, we're going to go into our REVIEWcast.
I'm waiting on the real Rock and Rolla. Where's my sequel?
Yeah.
After Buck Bunny.
Was he supposed to do a sequel?
Well, the movie ends with, like, that title card saying, like, the real Rock and Rolla will return.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Guy Ritchie. Huh. I'd be interested in that. I'd take that. But when we come back from the break, our review cast for Birds of Prey. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies, and there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. This week's review cast is for DC's Birds of Prey and the Emancipation. And the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
Get it right.
So this is. I was going to say this is DC's next installment into their DCEU, but I don't even know what they're doing right now.
What does that even mean?
And
what is the DCEU?
Right, so I'm not going to say, and I don't mean that as a dig. I just genuinely don't know, like, what they're doing. And to me, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
The only thing that connects this to previous DC movies, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the wanted poster for Captain Boomerang. And references to the Joker, who kind of looks like the Joker from Suicide Squad.
Well, I mean, but narratively, also what Harley has been through, it's in the previous films that's canon, like the stuff that happened in Suicide Squad.
But even in the context of this show, like this movie, they don't really reference the Suicide Squad stuff that much. They have like one line and the poster.
One line, the poster, the flashback of Happy getting his face tattooed by the back of the Joker, the guy who's doing it, that's supposed to be the Joker.
Well, right, but again, we don't know
his face. I mean, he has the green hair.
I'm just saying, you do not have to have watched anything.
So today I watched it for the third time, and when I was watching it for the third time, when she's walking to the truck, she says, "Yo, I have some of my best ideas when I'm drunk. I got the best idea." She's gonna drive the truck. I'm thinking, like, taking into account everything that's happened in the opening up to that point. I was wondering about people in the audience. I was wondering, like, okay, so what about the people who've never seen Suicide Squad? Like, I was wondering if any of this makes sense.
I mean, I think it totally makes sense.
A woman scorned is like the most universal.
I think it totally makes sense because I don't remember Suicide Squad.
Oh, geez. All right.
Blocked it out.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you've seen the film, good for you. If you haven't, we're going to get into spoilers, so be warned. Here's our review cast for Birds of Prey. We're going to do we're going to go around and do the good, the bad, the ugly. So start with Wife Dork, ladies first. The good of the film.
I'm going to start with the cast.
All right.
I love the cast of this film. Margot Robbie's performance of Harley Quinn, I think I actually enjoyed it in the context of Suicide Squad.
She was certainly a highlight.
She was a highlight. I thought that the way that she presents the kind of cartooniness with the violence, with the volatility, especially in this film, you really get the sense that she is walking a very fine edge. And I found that really fascinating, and in those moments where she is getting more emotional, you do feel that root, that kind of grounded thing of
yeah. And she sells the breakup, right?
Oh yeah,
like not just the anger and the rage of the breakup, but
the heartbreak.
The heartbreak.
She is set adrift. She doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I love that. I enjoyed Ewan McGregor as a villain.
Yeah.
Who knew? Like, he is such a human cartoon as well.
I mean, he is so good. Your quote, Darren, at the start of this episode, like when he delivers that in the movie, you know, I was dying.
It made me laugh so hard, man. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's my quote.
And I love the comeback of Rosie Perez. So we got to see Rosie Perez in another film at Sundance.
The D Reese.
The Last Thing He Wanted.
Yeah.
And she was definitely a highlight in that film. That film was okay.
Oh, wow.
But
okay,
she plays like this really hyper-motivated photographer who finds herself really impassioned to follow this news story, even though like the newspaper is
actually
pushing
her
up against
character in The Last Thing He Wanted and her character of Renee Montoya in Birds of Prey are very
They have
similar.
a lot in common because Renee Montoya is a cop who is driven by an idealism and the idea of, well, this is the right thing to do and I'm going to do the right thing, even though the institution is repeatedly overlooking me and kicking me in the teeth.
Yeah, very hard to be idealistic in Gotham City.
Yeah. So I enjoyed that as well.
All right. What about you, Brad?
I mean, I second everything about the cast. I loved Ewan McGregor. I think certainly Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn is like the standout. It's her movie. She's electric in the film. She's scary. She does it all in this film. Without it ever being annoying, because Harley Quinn is a character that I've experienced in multiple mediums very poorly, like executed poorly, and you can come away with some interpretations that go like, I never want to see the Harley Quinn character ever again.
Yeah.
But then you watch this and you go like, oh, this is everything you love about the Harley Quinn character. And as somebody who was very much enamored with the Batman the Animated Series version of Harley Quinn, and never really liked how she was done early on in the comics. And when Suicide Squad came out, I probably did a lot of talk where it's like, I just missed my animated series version.
Yeah.
I feel like what she's doing in this film is the closest to the spirit of the animated series, boosted up a little bit in maturity and violence and scariness. So I think this is like the best post-animated series version of Harley Quinn.
I love the aesthetic of this movie
Oh,
too.
yeah, me too.
Like they went from kind of Harley Quinn's baby doll kind of look,
Gothy, Hot Topic.
and they kind of exploded that all over the screen, added more color, added more kind of, I don't know.
Like they took the Hot Topic and they took the Hello Kitty and they made it.
Yeah.
And they birthed something really glorious. I think Kathy Yan as a director was
Absolutely.
like perfect for this movie. I was a big fan of Dead Pigs, which we saw at Lost Weekend 12.
That never got released.
No, it never got distribution in the United States, and that's a bummer because that movie is quite good.
She did that movie?
Yeah.
Dead Pigs. Yeah, yeah.
Shit.
And you see her in this film, and she has total control over the environment, over her camera, over the characters. Like, I think this is a birth of an awesome new filmmaker, and I can't wait to watch whatever Kathy Yan does.
Yeah.
And I think you see her point of view in this movie in a way that that like a guy like David Ayer could never accomplish.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, and like the energy of the film, all that stuff, the look of the film. But just going back to the cast, Cassandra Cain, I'm forgetting the actress's name, Jay LeBlasco. I'm butchering that, but she is great in the film.
Ella J. Basco.
L.O.J. Basco.
I like how she added a little bit of heart to Harley Quinn's character, how she really had an affinity for this person, and yet didn't change at all.
Right. And Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress, or the Crossbow Killer, is a lot of fun.
More action, Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah.
I am for it.
Yeah.
She's long and lanky.
Yeah.
She can really wrap those legs around something.
And
Wait,
when they're all fighting, like when it's in full girl gang Birds of Prey mode at the end, and they're just slaughtering dudes, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead's going down that the slide and stabbing the guy in the back. That's all awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I really appreciated it. Yeah. So let's see. Anything else? Ewan McGregor. Whoa! I'd watch an entire movie about Black Mask.
yeah, I'm kind of bummed that he got exploded at the end.
Oh my God.
Same. But if we were in the theater with Darren was enjoying that.
I squealed with delight.
You did.
I
You
did.
did.
I found it really fun. But then the movie just kind of stopped.
Also, something we don't talk about too much anymore. You always talk about it with a Tarantino movie. You always talk about it with a Guy Ritchie film. The soundtrack
Needle
was
drop.
rad as hell.
Yes.
Amazing needle drops.
Yeah.
And again, take a dump on Suicide Squad. But the needle drops in Suicide Squad, which were prevalent, were atrocious.
Oh.
And in this, you're like, this is spot on. It's thematically spot on. It's action spot on. Like, it all works.
Yeah.
The soundtrack was great. I came out going like, I should download that.
Yeah. All right.
Anything else? I guess that's it. I'll let you continue.
I agree with everything you all said. Margot Robbie, she, outside of just her as fleshing out Harley Quinn as a character, you say more action, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Lisa. I say more action, Margot Robbie. Like her work with the 1187 stunt team in the film, like all of the action sequences, and in addition to like her, not even just her performance, but the way that Kathy Yan shot it, like her rampage through the precinct is broken up into two parts because the first part happens, you stop, you get a flashback, about 20 minutes of movie happens, and then we pick up from where we stop and we continue into the jail cell where she frees Cassie. But just as a whole, like if you take both of those halves and put them together, like the way that was shot, Lisa, you talk about the aesthetic, the colors, the glitter bombs when she's shooting the guys.
So fun.
Like just the way that looks coupled with the slow-mo and the cinematography. But all three times, I wouldn't even say like it took like a second or third viewing, but all three times that I watched it, I was looking at Margot's face while she was performing the stunts. And I'm 99.9% positive she did all that choreography, but just like the look in her face, it wasn't like she was concentrating on doing the moves. I could see Harley,
the character
having
Yeah.
fun, because she was doing
Having
like these
fun
little
and-
smirks and these grins when she was pulling off these complex spins with the gun and shit like that. And I was like, God damn, like she's really good, like she's really pulling it off and she's really selling it. And so that was like the highlight of all three of my viewings. That segment, both parts, but then also what you were talking about at the end, where they're in the booby trap and the camera work where the scene is choreographed, that they're on this spinning platform and all the goons are coming on, the birds of prey are on there, and Cassandra's on there, and everyone's like passing her around trying to keep her out of harm's way, and the camera's going through back and forth, capturing each member do something, but also move Cassandra out of the way. And it was cohesive. I could tell where everyone was. I could tell what was going on. And
I thought that like setting it in kind of a carnival haunted housey type place.
Yeah.
At first I was resistant to it because it seemed kind of like obvious, but then the way, like you said, the way it was choreographed, the way that they really laid out the geography of that space, I thought was so entirely like
Incredibly
wonderful,
effective.
really fun.
Yeah. And you talk about, Darren, the character in the action. So often there are very few characters where the actor gets to do anything other than be stern and killing people, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And characters like Harley Quinn and characters like the Joker, like if you look at Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, and when he's doing certain actions, and like he masters. This is how the Joker behaves and delights in these
like
scenarios.
when he would shoot a gun, he would go, woo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Harley Quinn is doing that, but it's less menacing and villainous.
Yeah.
And it's more spirited and joyful.
Yeah.
Like her insanity is like the glee that she gets out of firing this beanbag gun.
Yeah.
You know?
The segment when the second half, when they go into like the evidence room and Black Betty comes on and she sniffs that cocaine, and there's a sequence where she's doing all this work with that bat, and it ends with her bouncing it off the ground and catching it.
Well, when she discovers that bat the first time, and when you see the joy come over her, and you see your future, right? She gets that bat, and you're like, oh, this action scene's gonna be glorious.
Yeah. That joy in her face, it carries through the end of that sequence.
Yeah.
Like there were these things that interesting looks and smirks that she was doing with her face while she was performing all this complex choreography that I was like, man, she's selling the shit out of it. I don't know. I was really taken aback by how well all of the action in this film was shot, staged, and acted. I really wish there was more Huntress in the film.
Yeah.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead, she really surprised me with how well like she came off in her action sequences. Even Black Canary, Smollett Bell, is her name? Journey Smollett Bell. The first sequence when she rescues Harley from the back of that van, when she's kicking the shit out of those guys, like the way that was shot.
Have we seen her in anything before?
She was in Friday Night Lights.
Well, have I ever seen her in anything before?
I don't think so, but she was great.
Yeah,
what do you think
her a
about
lot.
her singing, Lisa?
I thought it was gorgeous.
She was great, right? And I also liked Victor Zsasz. Like he was stupidly creepy. Like
That guy's face I've seen places.
I don't know that I've seen him.
He's been in stuff.
But he was like, I found him very effectively menacing, and like his weird like homoerotic relationship with Black Mask. Like I really dug that. And what else? The music, just the visual aesthetic. Rosie Perez was great, and I liked, with the structure of the film being erratic, because Harley's the narrator, and obviously, and her psyche seems like it's all over the place. Like she seems like she has ADD at times, and the story structure kind of follows that, when she would double back and go 4 minutes back in the past and then bring you back to the future, and then go back 1 week in the past and then bring you back to the future. And in a way, at the very least, that first act of that film, I couldn't help but think of a Guy Ritchie film.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to have watched it right after The Gentleman, because they both do that thing.
Right. And so I was like, man, this is the best non-Guy Ritchie film. This feels like, it feels like someone trying to do Guy Ritchie, but like not failing at it. The only thing that was missing was the Guy Ritchie's specific type of writing or dialogue. But just the way that the story would double back and lead back up to itself, I found interesting. I will admit, though, the first time I watched it, it did kind of confuse me at certain parts. But the second and third time I watched it, everything made sense. Like the first time you see it, when Black Mass has the guy and his wife and child hanging upside
From
down.
Lost.
Yeah. Well, when he first walks in the room, he said, I made you like that sweet presentation. I made you like that sweet presentation. That happens before we see him in the club presenting him with that deal of, and so when I watched it a second time, like, I don't know, like a lot of things, even though things were jumbled around as far as time goes, it made sense. There were things as far as dialogue and exposition that were put out to make everything make sense if you do go back and watch it. So I do appreciate that. What else? All right, I guess. What about the bad, Lisa?
It was a lot of action for me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I found the actual storyline a little bit thin. It was just like kind of like an attachment to get you to another action scene. And as inventive and as fun as the action scenes are, like that's just not my groove.
Yeah.
So I think that there were some missed opportunities. I loved how like the kind of side thing about the Huntress's character is that she is awkward and she does not know how to be cool.
Yeah.
I think I really enjoyed that aspect of her character.
Yeah.
Every time it bubbled up, I felt like there was so much time spent on the Margot Robbie the Harley Quinn Black Canary relationship, which was important, but I would have liked to have a little bit more of the team, more of the Rosie Perez, though she had some great scenes.
She did.
That I really appreciated. I loved the scene with her after having like the worst day ever, having to dig clothes out of the.
Yeah.
We have a dress code. So good.
I shaved my balls for this.
Yeah. So yeah, I just felt like you have all of these really wonderful characters. I'd like to see you play with them.
Yeah.
The hyena. There could have been way more of the hyena.
Bruce.
Definitely more Bruce.
Yeah, he could have gotten in on the action.
Yeah. When I saw that in the trailer, I was like, man, how are they going to do that? But it was great. I liked it in the movie. They pulled it off great. Yeah.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah. To what you were saying about the Huntress's character, I noticed that really the second time I watched it, Lisa, at the very end when they're all having tacos and when she says Huntress, that's a badass fucking name, and she compliments her. She says thank you. And I also like the way that trying to be social, and it fits with her character spending her whole entire life just training to go kill these people, not having normal social interactions with friends.
And desiring it.
Right.
And like you feel her wanting to be one of the
that.
girls.
To go back to that moment where Harley Quinn explains to Huntress that vengeance is not the cathartic thing that you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
And really what you need to be is part of us.
Yeah.
And you'll find catharsis with us. I was like, okay, well, that's a brilliant moment, especially how it then breaks immediately because Harley Quinn's like all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Like it goes to show like Harley Quinn is processing things.
Yes.
She's had revenge and gone like, I'm still feeling unfulfilled. She's just like every woman in her 30s, just trying to make it happen.
Oh, okay.
How can we stand on our own 2 feet?
Insight. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. What is that it for your bad?
Yeah.
What about you, B?
Yeah.
I was frustrated with the structure a little bit, the back and forth.
Yeah.
I don't think that was as compelling. I like the idea of embracing Harley Quinn as an unreliable narrator, but if you're going to do that, I really wish they had pushed the unreliable narrator a little bit more. And I felt like it got in the way of bringing the team together. The film really came alive for me once they were all operating for the same purpose.
Yeah.
So like the structure, I was like, meh. I think that's really it. And that you get a lot of backstory for Huntress and you get less backstory for some of the other characters. And I felt like that backstory for Huntress just got in the way of having more Huntress in the film. But Rosie Perez, want more Rosie Perez. I love Renee Montoya. She's one of my favorite characters from the comics. So I'd like to see her kick more ass. I'm curious to see if we ever get a sequel, what that character gets up to. I hope we get another sequel. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess that's really it for my bad.
All right. Say it.
The final sequence with the carnival and building up to the confrontation with Ewan McGregor as Black Mask
On the pier.
It's just not the ending for the Black Mask. Like, that's not. I would have liked something a little more
Climactic
for the confrontation with that character.
I did like to see the relationship. Like, I did like to see what's her name? The little girl.
Cassandra Cain.
I like to see Cassandra Cain and Harley Quinn's relationship kind of come together in that moment of the way that they find a way to communicate in that moment that speaks to both of them. Yeah. I really enjoyed that a lot, but I do agree with you, like, that he made such a fantastic villain, and for him to just kind of like, we finally get to the big bad, and like within 15 seconds he's exploded.
I was a little disappointed in that, and I was a little disappointed on when Black Canary finally got to unleash her power.
Oh, yeah.
And eradicate the rest of the goons. Her ability, you know, she's really the only like superpowered individual amongst the group. And that, I think if you know that going in and you see her shatter the glass, you're like, okay, I'm waiting for Black Canary to unleash Black Canary. But it does feel kind of random at the end of the film. If I would especially think if you had no knowledge of the character going into the film.
And it didn't create a lot of it was just a motivation to get Harley Quinn running in a direction.
Yeah.
So
but I did like that. I also liked how it propelled her forward.
Yeah.
And I did like the car chase with Huntress on her bike and the whip it and calling back.
Badass.
I think
that was cool. But like that, I do agree that like that Black Canary moment could have been bigger and could have been played up a little bit more,
or introduce that ability earlier on in the film. I don't know.
The way I saw that was that scene in the hallway when Montoya was talking to her and trying to get her to help her, and when he was like, "Your mother used to help," and so. What I got from that was maybe her mother was the original Black Canary.
Yes,
she is.
And in this one hasn't come into that yet.
Yeah.
And so doesn't use that a lot, maybe. And I thought that movie was trying to, that line was trying to explain in a way why we're not going to have her do this until the end.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
But when that happened at the end, I had forgotten. I was like, oh yeah, she can do that. Okay. And I kind of agree with the whole Black Mask thing, but then they made him explode, so I kind of was like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
It was a great explosion.
So good in that role.
Yeah. Huh.
I want to see him play more villains. He's so smarmy.
I just want to see him play that character again. I don't know.
Why are they taking these are my things.
These are my things.
All right, that's it for your bad.
Yeah, that's it for me.
I would say for my bad, sometimes the script wasn't necessarily like my favorite thing in the world. But other than that, like the first time I watched it, the jumping around in time confused me, and I wasn't too keen on that. The second time I watched it, it became more clear to me, and I got it, so it didn't bother me as much. Third time I watched it, I understood everything, so I was fine with it. So I can't say that that's any longer part of my bad, but I will say, like, sometimes there were certain parts of the script or certain lines of dialogue that just felt flat to me. But other than that, I don't know. Like,
get a colander. That was I love that. That was great.
And I had so much like I got so many dirty looks when I was sitting in the theater with Sia watching that movie. I didn't give a shit. My dad took me to see RoboCop when I was 10. Look, this is not RoboCop. All right, and I turned out just fine. So when we came out of that movie, I was like, "What did you think?" Oh my God, that was the best movie ever. She loved it. So like I had fun watching it. That was my second
Did
time.
you get dirty looks from other people?
There's this one lady walked me. See, and I was sitting there. This is before like the movie starts. Like the lights are up, and they're doing the pre-shows, and we are sitting in the seat, and the seats recline, and like this lady walks past and looks at me like, "You piece of shit," and I was like, "Yeah." But you know, I really didn't care. I mean,
I mean, when you get down to it, it's a movie about sisterhood. It's a movie about women empowerment.
Well, I mean, it is no different than when we were watching like RoboCop or whatever when we were a kid. Like we were seeing stuff like this, and like yeah, it's violent. People are getting their faces peeled off and whatever, and exploding.
Oh, I forgot about that.
But it's like the only thing in it that I would be like, oof, is the threat of rape that Zaz commits at the end. That I would maybe go like, oh, I don't know if I'd want to see that. But at the same time, it's over so quickly to even process that. I don't know.
yeah, and
You're the dad.
and,
It's on you,
even
man.
before like I take her into this movie, like you know, I did through other facets of our life together. Like I'm spending the rest of my time teaching her
Yeah.
right from wrong.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm not concerned for seeing.
So I'm not either. Like she's
got
making
disco.
A's and B's in school,
Yeah.
man. That's all I can ask for. She's a good person.
But
She's
like
a good heart.
you
so.
do what my parents did with me. You know, like, you talk to your kid about what they're watching
Yeah.
and what they just experienced.
Yeah, I have a discussion
Yeah.
about it. So you know, she like I said, she loved it. So I loved it. So yeah. What about the ugly, Lisa?
I found the threat of rape in a fun film ugly.
When she was paralyzed at the end.
No, I would say
Zaz spreads her legs, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one, but I'm also talking about the scene where
In the alley.
where Roman Sionis has the woman cuts off the woman's dress
yeah.
and humiliates her in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Black Canary is there and she begins to cry. I don't know. Like, so there's 4 comedies that I've seen in the past 3 weeks that are all comedies that all have a threat of sexual violence against a woman. It was Birds of Prey. It was The Gentleman. It was a movie called Zola.
Oh man.
Oh wow.
Oh man.
You got to see that?
We did get to see
man,
that,
Jared.
and
I know about the story.
I wasn't a fan of it. I thought that it was mean spirited. There were definitely like
a
funny
lot.
moments,
It's a lot.
and stylistically, there are moments that I am head over heels in love with. But at the same time, like I thought that it was commenting on people in an incompassionate way. And then the other one was
Promising Young Woman.
Promising Young Woman
But
was
that's all about that.
I mean, it's necessary to the like I was going to say Bad Hair.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's another movie where a woman is being threatened with rape in a comedy. Like I realize that it is something that women deal with every day, especially considering that in most cases you take one man and one woman, the man can physically overpower her. And that's always an element in the man-woman relationship, especially when violence is involved. But it's traumatic to watch. And I think that it should be done with the utmost compassion and care. And the fact that I've seen it in 4 movies where all 4 times it felt the same way. Like, here's the threat. Isn't this the most awful person you ever met? Single tear. Like 4 times seeing the same film, with the exception of Bad Hair. That's not exactly how it played out, but it's the same idea. So I think that it's like becoming like a shorthand for gravitas, like, or a shorthand for like going like, yeah, we're laughing, but there is a real element to this that
and
should be
overcoming
taken.
it.
Yeah.
You know, like killing the rapist. You know,
Yeah.
we don't need that in society.
I like, to me, it doesn't need to be part of every conversation that involves a woman.
Yeah.
Like, if there's a woman involved and there's violence, it does not have to be sexual violence every single time.
Yeah.
It's a cliche and it's hurtful. So, yeah. So I think that's pretty ugly.
Okay. What about you, B?
It's hard to argue with that. Let's see. Well, you know, the colander line. That's disgusting. Do I have like a really serious ugly in Birds of Prey? Not really. Colander, the face is coming off. That's gross. You know, I don't even know if I really mean this, but I'll just put it out there. Speaking of another trend with the R-rated comic book movie, and as somebody who grew up with these characters, not necessarily Harley Quinn, although I was introduced to Harley Quinn through an animated film, it is weird to me how much pleasure we take in taking PG-13 characters and turning them into R-rated franchises. For me, it works in Birds of Prey, but like R-rated Joker, R-rated Birds of Prey, R-rated Logan, R-rated Deadpool, and we all say like, finally, these characters are being told the way they were meant to be told, and I just don't agree with that. That's not how they were meant to be told. But I'm just trying to fill the air on my ugly, so that's what I went with. That's what I went with.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying there's a really badass version of Birds of Prey that's PG-13 also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, you take out like if you edit the face cutting scene.
The R-rated, like that commentary that I just went off is really more about Deadpool and more about Logan, which I think are characters that certainly don't need to be R-rated.
Yeah.
And it's less about what Birds of Prey is, because Birds of Prey is also being very gauche, like purposefully, aggressively in your face and on all fronts. And that is the aesthetic. And that is also kind of Harley Quinn's aesthetic. So it works a little bit more for me than it does for Logan and Deadpool.
Yeah.
But you could just dismiss me as an old man.
Okay. My ugly, I guess just some of Harley's general behavior, like sometimes, like it's funny because so many people, so many ladies, women, or whatever, kids see her like looking up to her, but she's doing like some fucked up shit.
Yeah, the anti-hero
But you
kind
know
of
what
thing.
though? Like I look at this interpretation of Harley Quinn versus the interpretation of Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad. Like I felt like even though she was a highlight of Suicide Squad, I felt that her wackiness, her cracked psychology, the horror behind that character was so surface level in Suicide Squad, and really was like...
It was to inform Joker's character, really.
To inform Joker's character, but it was really the hot topic, like, gothy cool version. And in Birds of Prey, the greatest thing I can say about Birds of Prey is that you understand the pain of Harley Quinn in a way that has not been explored really before. Maybe a little bit in the comics, but I feel like you understand her shattered personality in Birds of Prey better than anything else.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciated that.
I do too.
But you definitely don't want Sia coming home and like, when I grow up, I want to be a Harley Quinn.
I just felt so bad for the guy in the grocery store when she ran into him with the fucking cart and knocked him down. Like he was just the grocery store bagger guy. Like, hey, you can't steal that. Like she full on like
she is an amoral person.
She is.
Yeah.
And I,
I kind of like that she stuck to her guns at the end of the movie. Even though she did take Cassandra Cain under her wing, she's like, I'm still a bad guy.
That
I'm not going to be a Birds of Prey.
immorality is connected to a life experience in a way that is not in other versions of this character.
Yeah.
All right. Those are our thoughts on Birds of Prey. The Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. If you've seen the film, hit us up on social media at @itmodcast. Let us know what you thought of the film.
And if you haven't, you really should. There's no reason why it should be doing so poorly at the box office.
Yeah, that was surprising to me. Like a day or two before the film opened, a lot of the news headlines were how there were not being any tickets sold. And I went on to like Fandango and I went on to these different apps. And that wasn't like clickbait. Like there were literally empty showings empty screenings for like
Friday night,
Thursday and Friday.
We went on Friday night.
Yeah, we went on Thursday and we had lots of room.
Yeah, and
very interesting. And why do you think that is? Because I saw tons of ads for the movie.
Me too. And I thought that she was a popular character. I mean, because if you go to Comic-Con, like every other person is a Harley Quinn.
Yeah, but if only Comic-Con shows up to your movie, that's not enough
But I
not
mean,
enough.
it seemed like it wasn't even common. Like they were literally like. So typically, when I buy my tickets in advance, and it's for a popular movie like this on a Thursday or even a Friday, because I went Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I got my pick, middle row, middle of the theater, in each one of those screenings at prime showtimes, like at the 6, 7. Today I went at like 11, but like Friday and Saturday I went like 7, and it was empty. Like it was ahead of time. It was empty, and so I don't know. I thought that the response to the trailers was positive.
And Suicide Squad made a ton of money, and everyone came out of Suicide Squad saying how awesome Margot Robbie was.
Right.
And the ads, I thought, did a good job of translating what this experience was going to be.
Yeah. And just people on social media and on Twitter, like how they were saying that they were, when the first footage was released of Margot Robbie and the rest of the women in the film, all these people were like, oh, I'm so here for this. And then, a few days before the movie's release, I'm checking showtimes and I had my pick of the litter and seats. Like I have not seen an opening like that as far as accessibility, unless it was like some independent film that no one really knew anything about. I could get a seat like that, but for
like The Grudge, we did great.
Yeah, but for like a blockbuster film, like that's unheard of.
Do you think that it is some kind of like backlash from Joker? Like where Suicide
Joker made $1 billion.
I know, but there was also a conversation surrounding Joker about some intrinsic issues with that character.
The morality of it.
And then coming off of that film, having a super fun girl-centric vehicle, like maybe I don't know. Because to me, it's just, with the exception of like Sia, like I don't see a lot of parents going like, hey,
well,
kiddo.
It is an R-rated movie.
I know, but then like, so do R-rated superhero movie fans, do they want to see a Joker? Or do they want to see a super fun Harley Quinn bubblegum violent film?
I think this has the vibe of a Deadpool.
You know what it could be?
I think it's sexism.
You know what it could be? I think it is a majority of the box office that put these R-rated comic book movies up there, like Deadpool, like Joker, and like Logan. I think the demographic for those ticket sales are males. Dudes. And those dudes, and I've been like, I'll be in the comment sections, whether it be on Twitter, Facebook, IGN, or all these other places, and
I've seen some toxic ass responses.
They got nothing positive to say. Like, there's so many dudes angry that there's a female movie, period. It doesn't even matter. Like, and so I feel like a large part of that audience that would turn out for these R-rated, male-centered superhero films or whatever are just not interested in
because they either want to see a broody Logan, or they want to make fart and dick jokes.
Sure. So, but here's my question though. Like, let those assholes don't come out for Birds of Prey, but the opposites of those assholes don't come out for Birds of Prey either,
because of the precedent
of Joker,
and the idea of Harley Quinn not being necessarily the most female empowering story.
Well, I will say this: those assholes don't come out for Harley Quinn on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but the rest of the people, like the women who would be interested in the audience that would be interested in seeing a female-centered superhero movie, maybe those aren't the type of people that go out to a movie on the opening weekend, right? So Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey may have legs. The audience that are going to be tuned into that, and
I hope it does.
I think so.
To me, I
hope
thought
so.
even with my commentary about being like, it's a lot of action and rape isn't funny, but I did have fun in that movie. I thought it was. And I think that if it set off a genre of super cool, fun female action movies, I would love that.
Yeah, same. So hopefully, my hope is, my suspicion is that is the case. Like the audience that comes out Thursday, Friday, and opening weekend are the fanboys, literally fanboys. And the audience that gives a movie legs, like, that would keep Wonder Woman in theaters for however long it was in theaters, are the casual moviegoers who
But
are
I
interested
don't think
in
that the women who saw Wonder Woman, who like their first superhero movie was Wonder Woman, are going to come see Harley Quinn.
Yeah, but the people who are fans of Harley Quinn, who aren't necessarily fanboys,
I think if you want a different flavor of comic book movie or action movie, this delivers on that.
Yeah.
I think Kathy Yan, first woman of color to ever direct a comic book movie, is a hell of a voice, and you should support her voice.
Yep.
I think this cast is incredibly diverse and extremely interesting and a total blast to be a part of. And unlike any other comic book cast we've had, we need to support this.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's very well made,
and it's a ton of fun.
It is.
It's a ton of fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
So that's gonna do it for us. Wife Talk, what are you looking forward to this week?
There's only one movie Lisa wants to see. It's Elizabeth Moss in The Invisible Man.
That's this week.
It's for Valentine's Day, right?
Is it?
I think
I
so.
have no idea.
I think so.
Okay.
I'm living in the moment right now, Darren.
All
I
right.
look forward to nothing. I'm just savoring right now.
She's got another movie out, Shirley, coming out.
We
we
saw
saw
it.
Shirley
good?
at Sundance. We thought it was okay.
I liked it.
We liked it.
I liked it.
Okay.
Lisa thought it was okay. I really liked it.
All right.
What else? Well, the Oscars are tonight.
Yeah.
It's like I missed the Oscars last year. I'm super excited to be going to the Sears and partying with them. Gonna live tweet them. Gonna live tweet those Oscars.
What about Sonic the Hedgehog?
No fucks given.
Oh, all right.
Lisa said.
I have no nostalgia. I was not allowed to have I wasn't allowed to have a Sega Genesis. I was not allowed to watch the cartoon. I have no nostalgia.
It really frustrates me when they do like the Smurfs thing and they take the character out of his world, the green zone, and they put him into our world with hanging out with James Marsden. I like James Marsden. I'd rather just watch an animated Sonic film.
Same.
But also, would I? I don't know.
All right. Well, you can follow her at Sidewalk Siren and at Bake Dork on Twitter and Instagram.
I think The Invisible Man's coming out.
I hope so. And she's also at Sidewalk Siren on Letterboxd. What do you think about that? The Book of Saw.
I mean,
viral.
I can't wait.
Happy?
Like that trailer is fine, whatever. Like it's Chris Rock versus the Jigsaw guy.
He's playing a bad cop. He's playing like a crooked cop.
Yeah, that makes sense for a Saw film.
Yeah.
I'm down. I'm down. It's got to be better than Jigsaw, the last one, right?
What's that one about?
Yeah, exactly.
Downhill is coming out this week.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm gonna
we
see
saw that at Sundance.
Yeah.
We really liked
Is that
it.
how is that compared to the original?
Well, we haven't watched the original, Darren.
Really?
Force Majeure, yeah.
And apparently that is the key to enjoying this movie because a lot of people did not like this at Sundance.
Yeah.
They had the big why
It's
question.
not as good as the remake
The
or as the
original.
original, but I think as a Julie Louis-Dreyfus, Will Ferrell vehicle, I really enjoyed it. I think the direction is top notch. The way that they shoot the fight that happens in the middle of the film is really well done. There's a rack focus in it that I just loved. I came away from Downhill going like, that's a damn good movie. I should watch the original.
It's probably best that you saw that one first then compared to the original.
Maybe.
But I hate that fact because I want to be supportive of Downhill. But anytime you say you like Downhill and they go like, how did it compare to Force Majeure? You go, well, I haven't seen Force Majeure. And then they go like, well, you're a cretin, so go to hell. And
Well,
I'm like,
there
oh, geez.
are actually a couple of Sundance movies that we missed that are coming out on streaming.
Soon?
Yeah, this weekend.
Oh?
Horse Girl.
that's already
That's
out.
That's out already. We
Is
haven't
that
watched
good?
that.
Oh.
We
Okay.
didn't see it.
And Timmy Failure Mistakes Were Made. That's another one that I wanted to see but missed. And it's
that
on
one's
Disney
good.
Plus.
Yeah, that's on Disney Plus right
It's
now. I'm gonna
done
watch
by the director
McCarthy.
of Spotlight, and it's
Oh.
like a super fun kids film.
that. With a giant polar bear.
Yeah,
Looking
I'm
forward to
excited.
it. Yeah.
All right. Brad Gullickson can be found at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untapped. Brian can be found somewhere. I don't know where the fuck he is. At the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. And you can find Disco Dork on Amazon Prime, watching Honey Boy ad nauseum.
Invisible Man comes out the 28th of February.
Oh, Brad.
Sorry.
All right. Yeah, I'm at the Disco Dork on all social medias.
Damn, Sonic the Hedgehog.
That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. If you haven't seen Honey Boy, it's on Amazon Prime. Go watch it now. And until next time.